The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, everybody, we're going to start in 2 minutes.
Okay.
People are continuing to come in. That's wonderful, Richard.
They can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll mute myself. Yeah.
Well, it's time to get started, folks. This is Krishna Vedula from IUCE, and I want to welcome you all. This another wonderful webinar from IFEES, GEDC, and IUCE. We have with us, of course, Dr. Hans Hoyer, Secretary General of IFEES, is with us, and he will make some comments later on. But the excitement today is about the presentation by Professor Richard Marklin, and he's going to share with us lessons that he has learned from teaching remotely now that everybody is being pushed in that direction. So he's going to show us how he has survived and adapted, and now is doing an excellent job of teaching remotely. So here we go, Richard. Your title slide is on the screen, so take it away.
Okay, hi, welcome. Thank you very much. And my name is Richard Marklin. I want to thank Dr. Hans Jürgen Hoyer and Dr. Krishna for allowing me to do this. And I just want to really share with you that what my experiences were and whether possibly they could help you, because we were all in the same, I think most of us were in the same situation, and we were really given abrupt mandates to change within days or a week. And so I just wanted to let you know what I did, how difficult it was, and possibly you can learn from my experience. So here we go. All right, first of all, who am I? I'm a professor of mechanical engineering. As you can see in that sketch, that's a self-portrait. I'm an old guy. I'm almost 64 years old. I've lived about 23,500 days. So I'm pretty old. And I'm a mechanical engineering professor. And I did my graduate work at the Ohio State University from 85 until 91. And then I joined Marquette University, which is in southeastern Wisconsin. I'll show you a map. I started in 1991 and I have been there for 29 years. I will retire in 2 years. After 31 years at any one organization, that's enough time. And I am going to just show you very briefly just the research I've done in physical ergonomics and the type of teaching I do. I really am an industrial engineer. We had an industrial engineering program at Marquette when I joined, but that was jettisoned in the 90s. So I just basically adapted and I worked myself into a mechanical engineer, and it has been no problem. I teach ergonomics, statistics, research methods, engineering economy, work methods, all things like that. All right, first of all, let me tell you about Marquette University. It's not well known. It is right here, okay, in southeastern Wisconsin. Here's Chicago down here. You've all heard of Chicago, obviously. We're about 90-minute train ride north of Chicago. Now, don't confuse us with Marquette, Michigan. There is a university called University of Northern Michigan up in Marquette, Michigan. We're Marquette in Milwaukee. We are a private university. We have BS, MS, and PhD programs in mechanical, civil, electrical, and biomedical. Approximately 1,200 graduate students, approximately 300 graduate students. Half of them are part-time and they work in industry. And Milwaukee is a city that I believe is really underestimated in the United States. It is growing. We have a strong entrepreneurship program, and the cost of living is affordable. We have about 1.5 million people, and we're right there. And the weather in the summer is beautiful. Now, let me tell you about my research. I have been very fortunate. I have lived a blessed life. And one of those reasons is because I have met Dr. Hans-Jürgen Hoyer. He's one of my mentors, and he's a very deep, special friend. And so with regard to research, I've been doing physical ergonomics. Now, why do I say physical ergonomics? Because ergonomics also has a focus that is the cognitive or psychological side. I don't try to do that. That's really too hard to figure out what the brain's trying to do. I do the physical aspects. And I've been fortunate to have a sponsor, the Electric Power Research Institute, who has sponsored research at Marquette for 25 years, starting in 1998. And we have a new project that will end when I retire. Now, I have done work for other sponsors, Harley Davidson, which is based in Milwaukee, Herman Miller, Fiskars, and NIOSH. And let me just tell you about what we've done in physical ergonomics. All of these books, we've published over 3,000 pages of handbooks for utility workers. And each handbook has at least 15 to 20 concrete examples of how to improve the work methods, which includes the tools and the environment and methods, to reduce the risk of injury. And we started this in 2001 with our first handbook. They've been very successful and popular among utilities. This is manhole workers. And by the way, you know, these people look like LA models. No, these are real Wisconsin utility workers. And the last one we published in 2012 about how to design and evaluate utility vehicles. Now, okay, now let's talk about COVID. All right, so this semester I was teaching engineering statistics, and everything was going fine, just as it had for the last 28 years. And then March 12th, we had suspected something was going to happen. The university said all instruction would be remote for 4 weeks until April 14th. Now that's the day after Easter, at least the Roman Easter. Now, so the university said you have 1 week to prepare all your teaching 100% remotely. So we said, oh my gosh, all right, particularly for the old faculty, and I'm an old faculty. And the take-home message of my experience is that an old professor can learn new tricks. Just like an old dog can learn new tricks, an old professor can learn new tricks. Now, the university provided D2L and Microsoft Teams. They said, and they had these training courses during the week of March 15th. And I didn't even know what Microsoft Teams was. I had never heard of Zoom. okay? So we all went through these training sessions, and what the university really wasn't clear about was that Microsoft Teams does not allow you to do make videos of lectures. It's a platform for communication, but it's not really for making lectures. And D2L doesn't really do that, at least to my knowledge. So I quickly had to ramp up and figure out how to do this. And then later they extended the remote teaching to the end of the semester, as almost all the schools did. So in reality is we had 6 weeks of remote classes, 1 week final exams, remote. Now let me tell you over here. Now, this was a study by Marquette, D2L usage in 2014. And you see right here, they said 84% of faculty used D2L in 2014. Now let's see the breakdown here. 61% used a grade book, 11% did not use, that doesn't make sense, do not use D2L, but then they said they used D2L, okay. Anyway, I'm down here in this group. The only thing I used on D2L was to post my syllabus and some exam reviews. I didn't have anything interactive, no lectures, nothing. So I was one of these people down here. All right, so now on March 16th, that was week number 9, the week after spring break. That's when we had 1 week to prepare. So in my class, I used the book Statistics for Engineers and the Scientists by William Navidi. This is the best book for teaching statistics to engineers or scientists. It is fabulous. And it has, I think, 5 editions now. You can use any one of the editions. It's by far the best. So what I did is, and I bought a lot of stuff on Amazon. I had to quickly ramp up and build a computer studio and a lecture studio in my basement of my house, because I have only gone to my office once in the last 3.5 months. So I wanted to get a document camera. Now, by the way, I got this document camera. It's the Epson. Don't buy this. This is overpriced. And you can buy a much better camera for $100. And then I bought the Camtasia software license. That was $170, because what the linchpin at the time was that I needed to make my videos digital and my lectures. I wasn't so much concerned about the quizzes and exams. I was really more concerned about delivering the content. And how was I going to do that? Now, most people, faculty will use voice over PowerPoint. Sometimes that's synchronous. Oh, and these 2 new buzzwords. Everybody was talking about, are you synchronous or asynchronous? Well, I'm an asynchronous guy, at least. Although I'm presenting this synchronously now. And so I said, I'm just going to make these lecture videos, put them on D2L, and the students can watch them anytime. And for that, I bought the Epson document camera and the software. Now, the 2 worst days of my life in the last year were the Monday and Tuesday, because this arrived, the camera, and I signed up for Camtasia, and it took me at least 2 days to figure out how to get the whole system to work. And it was a really trying experience, my God. And remember, I don't learn IT quickly, even though I'm an engineering professor. I'm an old dog. I don't learn quickly, but I one characteristic I have is I persist. I persevered, and finally, my first lecture video came out on Wednesday, March 18th of week 9. Now, classes officially resumed on March 23rd. And I'm kind of an odd duck, too, as Hans-Jürgen will confirm. Rather than doing voice-over PowerPoints, what I did is I actually did hand-drawn slides that I created with handwritten text and figures, and the document camera recorded it with a voiceover. All right, so the first video came out on March 18th, week 9. And that's when I was working assiduously getting these videos out. And I was averaging 3 to 4 videos per week for 5 weeks. And it was a total of 17 videos that I made, actually in 5 weeks. Each video is 10 to 22 minutes, hand-drawn text and figures on paper. And by the way, I'm not saying this is better than voice-over PowerPoint. This worked better for me. And for you, voice-over PowerPoint may be better. This was the best solution for me. It was recorded by the Epson. Don't buy that document camera. But the Camtasia software is really good. That is highly recommended. And it took me 6 hours to make one video because I hand drew all of my slides, like this is the one on central limit theorem. And what I do in my statistics courses, I use a lot of our experiments that we have done for utility workers over the last 25 years. And I show them real data. Like, for instance, this one here does a perforated shovel, a shovel that has holes in it, reduce whole body energy consumption versus a conventional shovel when you're digging wet, sticky clay? And the answer is yes. It reduces it by 12%. It really does work. And that was the first time someone had documented that. Now, remember that these were not live broadcasts. These were asynchronous. I loaded them up, and students could watch them 24/7. And I just want to show you some of my video topics, and I did 17 videos. The binomial, Poisson, the normal, or to my European friends, Gaussian distribution, central limit theorem. That's the central limit theorem. One author calls it the LeBron James of statistics. Of course, the t-distribution by William C. Legasset, confidence intervals, hypothesis testing. And what you can see here is these are some examples of slides. And what I did is I tried to make them colorful. And these are, by the way, hand-drawn and hand-colored with colored pencils. Remember, I'm an old guy who came of age in the 1970s. So this is all, hand done. And now I'm going to show you this video, but unfortunately, the audio doesn't work. And by the way, I will share these videos with you. You just send me your email message, and what I'll do is I will then share these videos with you via my Google Drive. I mean, you can watch them, and I'm not here to make any money. I'm just here to try to help other faculty and students. So let's watch this thing, but unfortunately you won't hear audio, so I'm going to talk over it.
Hi, this is Richard Markland.
Actually, it's working.
This is the next video for MEEN 3426. This video is about the normal approximation to the binomial. It is in section 4.11, which is the same section as the central limit theorem. The normal approximation to the binomial can save.
We're only going to listen to 2 or 3 minutes.
And reduce the amount of computation required by the binomial substantially. All right, let's take a look at the binomial distribution. Remember,
Okay, I'm going to zip ahead.
NP is greater than 10. Okay, let's look at an example.
This is a really
In
good example.
2005, the New England Patriots won 19 of 25 coin tosses. Some people suggested the Patriots cheated. CBS Sports reported that the probability of having 19 heads, at least 19 heads, was 0.0073. All right, let's not address the issue of whether they cheated. Let's just look at what's the probability that X was greater than or equal to 19. How did CBS Sports compute the probability? All right, X is the number of heads. Now, this is in favor of the Patriots.
I'll zip ahead here.
There were 25 tosses, and the prop 0.5. So what you have to do with the binomial
Okay, anyway, so that just gives you kind of a flavor. Now that one didn't show any color, but the later videos had a lot of color. I do want to let you know is that I don't know whether the New England Patriots cheated, but it was, they got lucky. They got really lucky that they got 19 heads out of 25 coin flips. Okay, now I do want to tell you that I did have some preparation for making these statistics videos. Last fall, I had the wonderful opportunity to have a sabbatical. And I went to the Technical University at Delft in the Netherlands. I taught freehand sketching for engineers to engineering graduate students at Technical University Delft. And I had done a traditional method of teaching using the whiteboard. And then my sponsor, my academic sponsor, a wonderful woman named Dr. Heike Valerie, who's from Germany, she said, Rich, she said, why don't you make some videos? And I said, I don't know how to make videos. And she said, we just built a $20 million facility for advanced teaching, and they built these video studios. I said, okay. So what I did is, and that was very difficult, I went over there for many afternoons and I figured it out. And finally, I was able to make a whole series of videos. And those videos were about sketching. So, and this presentation today is not about sketching. But if you do want to see my sketching videos, they're on YouTube. And my free YouTube channel name is Marklin Freehand Sketcher. So if you just go to YouTube, put in Marklin Freehand Sketcher, you'll see 10 videos. And if you like them, then subscribe. It's free and no advertising. Now, the most important benefit of this was that I learned how to use Camtasia software. And then when I started the videos this spring for statistics, I used the same software. All right. Now, what happened is I was still going to the office during that first week of preparing for remote teaching. The university had not closed down the buildings, but we thought that they were going to close down the buildings. So then we get a message on like March 24th and said, the building's going to close in the next 24 hours. Gather your stuff and get out of the building. So that's when I had to make a very quick exit. And I loaded up a couple boxes of stuff and I went home. Now, at the time, I didn't have my home workstation. So I thought, well, I got to make a home workstation. Now, this is my workstation here, okay? And as you know, I like to sketch. So before I made this, and I made this in one day, I made that whole desk in one day. And I did a quick sketch, and this is my computer workstation, and this is over here, my video production setup. I have 3 screens. And by the way, I bought about $1,500 worth of new equipment from Amazon. And so I got this set up, and by Thursday, probably March 26th, I was able to use this office. All right. Now, without this home workstation, I would not have been able to do the course. This was really this essential. It's the sine qua non. Okay, by the way, you may recognize this guy over here, and this is my brother. Okay, now the videos were going pretty well. I was making 3 to 4 a week, and I was keeping up. In fact, I was ahead of the class a little bit. Then I had to figure out, okay, how to do quizzes and exams. And fortunately, our university provided online synchronous help via they have some staff, and they helped me. So then I wrote my first quiz, and then I wrote my first exam. Now, the disadvantage is that all the quizzes and exams were multiple choice or true false. Now, there's a benefit and there are disadvantages to this. First of all, it takes more time to write a quiz. It takes 3 to 4 hours to write one quiz. And the reason is when you have a multiple choice, you give them 3 or 4 answers. And I anticipated the most common mistakes. Then I had to do all the computations for the most common mistakes. The advantage, though, was that there was less time to grade because the D2L graded it within a nanosecond. All right. However, let me tell you this. The students don't like it. They don't like these multiple choice or true false quizzes and exams for at least my course statistics, because you don't get any partial credit. What if you make a tiny mistake? And so that's one of the take-home messages, is that they don't like this. However, I don't know how you can administer a D2L quiz without this multiple choice or true false. I really don't know. Maybe some of you can help me. All right, now, grading. What I found was that the grades on the quizzes and exams averaged 5 to 10 points higher than in-person class. Now, I've been teaching this class for 12 to 15 years, and the grades are very consistent, very consistent. And this year, though, the grades were 5 to 10 points higher. Instead of maybe a 75% on the quiz, it was 85 or 80%. Now, so the question is, was there cheating? And I think there was, but frankly, to tell you the truth, me personally, it didn't bother me. It really didn't, okay. So here's what I think may have happened is, as students, when they take these quizzes and exams, and I give them a time limit, is they form groups and they talk with each other on cell phones or other computers, and they'll say, well, what answer did you get, etc. Now, what I did on D2L is that I shuffled the order of the multiple choice answers, but still each student got the same set of 4 possibilities. Okay, so they talked, some of them probably talked with their friends. They say, well, let's choose 0.95. And you go, okay, then they click it. All right. So, but to tell you the truth, I thought, look, that didn't bother me. All right, I was just trying to finish the semester. And people can deal with the cheating. I'm not going to try to do it. I can't do anything about that. Now, what was interesting, though, was this, is that there are groups of students of 2, 3, or 4 students, and they do final projects. And I could send you some of these. They do really neat things. Like, for instance, they evaluated whether the Houston Astros actually benefited from cheating from actually videotaping the catcher's pitcher signals. And there was no difference in grades. That's because they couldn't form groups during the quizzes and the exams. So was there cheating? Probably. I didn't really care much about it. Now, okay, now we're getting close to the end. This is not a long presentation, is the lessons learned. Just like an old dog, an old professor can learn new tricks. So what did I learn? I learned how to make lecture videos, how to write D2L quizzes and exams. And also another thing too is I learned how to use the grade book in D2L, which is really good. And by the way, I heard, I learned in the Netherlands, D2L is called Brightspace in Europe. It's owned by the same company and it's a very similar program. So that's really helpful if you can set up your grade book in D2L. Now, I also learned that my lecture videos are 50% shorter than in-person live lectures. Yeah, they're much, much quicker. And because you don't have questions, and I'm not saying that's bad or good, that's just a fact. And so you can do a 30-minute lecture in a less than 15-minute video. 30-minute in-person to 15 minutes or shorter video. And I want to tell you this, is that I'm really glad that I was forced to learn how to teach remotely, because it has made me a more effective 21st century instructor. Whether I'm teaching sketching, statistics, engineering methods, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now let me talk about the advantages of lecture videos. And I'm not saying lecture videos should replace in-person lectures. But here are the advantages. You can access 24/7, any time of the day or night. This can augment in-person instruction. So if a student wants to review a lecture, they can just watch the video later, or they could actually watch it before, although that's not likely. Students don't do that. Normally, at least our students don't. Another advantage is that a lecture video can substitute for the absence of the professor. If I were to travel, or if I were to become sick, I would send a message and say, watch videos 3 and 4. And then we'll continue next week. Students can review the video multiple times. And one of the reasons that the videos are shorter than in person is that the students can stop the video to write down equations. Whereas when you do in person, I usually wait for people to write things. Another advantage is it's an archival resource for after-course review. So let's say, and I tell all my statistics students is that, you know, this is a very important course and that most likely you're going to use statistics in your career. And 5 years from now, you may not know how to do a hypothesis test for two means paired t-test. Then just watch a video. Just watch my video. It's going to be on YouTube. And lastly, but not least, it's a foundation for an online course. Now, I'm not saying we should make all of our courses online, but the universities, of course, are really promoting this because it saves money. The bricks and mortar cost is much less for an online course than in person. So here are my recommendations. Now, by the way, these are my personal opinions. These do not represent my department, nor my university, nor IFEES, or anybody else. This is how I feel, and this is after having this experience this past semester and teaching for 29 years. Generally, in-person instruction is better than 100% remote. Why? Students can ask questions. You have a personal exchange between instructor and students. And also, there's a lot of nonverbal communication going between the instructor and students. And I know a little bit about psychology, and that this nonverbal communication between the instructor and the students can aid memory, because there are several channels for memory. And there's a visual channel for memory, there's an auditory channel for memory. So this is a very important point. Now, I think though, in the future, the best approach, and this is what I'm going to use, is to augment the in-person instruction with online materials, particularly lecture videos. And you can call this a hybrid, but it's going to be mostly in person. What you do is you provide resources for preview or review of lectures. Now, most likely students are not going to watch a video before the class, but they can review it after the class. These videos can substitute for in-person lecture if the instructor or students were absent. And also they're archival resources for the future. So those are really my recommendations. And that's what I'm going to do for the next 2 years that I will be teaching formally at Marquette University. I hope, well, our plan is to have in-person teaching, but I'm going to augment all of my courses with online materials. Now, let me just tell you about the changes to the United States University schedule. I know many of you are from other countries, and that's wonderful. That's absolutely. And by the way, if you are ever near Chicago, let me know, and then take a 90-minute train ride, and I'll pick you up at the train station, and I'll give you a tour, and I'll take you out to lunch in Milwaukee. Now, many U.S. universities who have different instruction models for 2020 and 21. Now, the public universities just made an announcement, but all of the private universities in our area decided over a month ago that we're going to have in-person instruction in fall 2020. Thank God. We're going back. However, we may have some restrictions. We haven't figured this out yet. We may have to reduce the number of people in a room. Instead of 40, you may have a limit of 15 to 20. We may have a 2-meter distance between people. In other words, we will reduce the number of seats. And we may have to do this with multiple sections with fewer students. So if I were to have a section of 40, then I would split that into 2 sections of 20 and teach it twice. And that's okay with me. And more online exams. Now, here's a typical fall schedule for U.S. universities, at least in the northern part of the United States. We're going to start 1 week early, August 17th. Normally, we start around the 24th. Eliminate a fall break. Now, our fall breaks typically are short, half a week. Some universities have a full week, but most universities have a half a week. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to end the in-person instruction before Thanksgiving, which is November 26th. And I will tell you the reason why. And then we're going to have online exams after Thanksgiving. All right, the reason is this, is that in the United States, the flu season is typically in December and January. And we want to minimize travel of students during the flu season. So students are going to go home November 25th, and they're not coming back until January 25th. That's 2 months. And the reason is to minimize the travel of students, because every time they travel, there's a potential for catching the COVID virus. All right. Now, some universities like Creighton, my daughter goes to Creighton University in Omaha, they're starting earlier. They're starting, I think, August 14th or so. they're ending their exams before Thanksgiving. But I think most universities are probably going to do this, follow some sort of schedule like this. Now, the spring semester will have fewer changes, all right? Now, we're going to start 1 week later, January 25th, and that is to reduce the time of overlap with the flu season. So there's going to be a 2-month break between Thanksgiving and the start of spring semester. Now, because of the way Easter, I'm talking about the Roman Easter, not the Orthodox Easter. The Easter is early, so the spring break and Easter break are going to be merged into maybe an 8 or 9 day period instead of a 7-day period. And then it's going to end the middle to late May at about the same time. So this is generally the changes. Now, obviously, each university may have a specific schedule that's different, but I can tell you from discussion with my colleagues at public and private universities that they're moving towards this model. And I think it's a really good model. I think it's a good, reasonable model. However, I will tell you this, if the United States gets a second wave of the virus in October or so, it will be a disaster because all the students will be sent home. And so we're hoping that doesn't happen. All right, now, again, this next slide is personal opinion. I'm not reflecting anybody else. Look, folks, we have to adapt or die. All right. Now, I'm talking particularly about higher cost private universities in the United States. See, the public universities here are not going to go out of business. University of Wisconsin-Madison or the regional schools in Milwaukee or La Crosse, they're not going to go out of business, all right? But the higher cost private universities, some of them will go out of business. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. And the reason is this, is we have to balance the supply and demand. Now, back in the 1970s, you know, I'm an old guy. The demographics were the opposite. There was more demand than supply. And universities were expanding and they created more regional campuses. And they did no advertising. And they still filled every seat. But 40 years later now, the demographics are the opposite. There's more capacity than demand. So some universities will go out of business. Oh, I'm talking about the United States. I'm not talking about outside the United States, all right? Now let's talk about demographic changes in the United States. And there's an expression that I use, and I'm a nascent demographer. I try to study demographics because there's this expression that is so true. Demographics is destiny. Demographics is destiny. Unless, of course, someone does genocide, which I hope never happens again. All right. Now, everybody in the U.S. is talking about the year 2026. And all of the university presidents, the United States, all are talking about 2026. There was a book that came out about last year, written by an economist, who said that the number of traditional students for universities, high school seniors, is going to reach a low point in 2026 because that's 18 years after the last recession. All right. So in other words, there are going to be fewer and fewer traditional students available until 2026, and then it's going to increase very slightly. Another thing to consider is this. Today in the United States, at least 75% of all the people who die are non-Hispanic white. But less than 50% of the babies who are born are non-Hispanic white. What that means is the United States is becoming more racially diverse every day, every day. And then they expect the United States will become a minority majority country in really about 20 years or so. Okay. So what we have to do at the higher cost private universities, we have to adapt or die. Okay. Because we can go out of business. So now let's talk about some of the questions for universities with high percentage of the budget dependent upon undergraduate tuition. These are mostly the private universities. Will there be less focus on faculty research productivity? Will there be more focus on undergraduate teaching quality? I don't know the answers to this. Will the criteria for promotion change? I don't know. I'm a short timer. I only have 2 years left. But the thing is, for these, like at my university, 70% of our revenue comes from undergraduate tuition. Do students really attend Marquette University because of our research productivity? Or are they more concerned about the quality in the classroom? You know, these are questions for the administrators to decide. Now, and I will let you know is what I'm changing is, because of the COVID, is all my courses will have online content to augment in person, some lecture videos, I'm going to have demonstrations. And also what we're moving towards, and some universities are trying this, they're trying certificate programs. Like a 5-week course, maybe you get 1 credit or something, and then you complete 3 or 4 courses and you get a certificate. And so possibly my statistics course may be one of these short courses for a certificate. All right. Oh, another thing I just want to tell you is that I've got to go back here. I'm sorry. I am changing my research from physical ergonomics to teaching STEM with the visual arts. I really want to teach the future generations. Now, so what I'm proposing to teach is STEAM, and STEAM has been around for 15 or 20 years. I did not invent this word. Science, technology, engineering, art, and math, the A's. And I have written a proposal, I'm trying to get funding now, is to teach underrepresented kindergarten to 8th grade students STEAM courses in public schools. These would be after-school programs. And where my approach is different is to incorporate the 2D and the 3D visual arts in the hands-on after-school course. And it's really basically going to be fun, but the students are going to learn a lot, and it's going to build their confidence in STEM. And some of the fun projects are sketching, quick 3D modeling. We're going to make sundials, golden ratios, levers, 4-bar mechanisms, platonic solids, design projects. And the math will be introduced at the end of each project. So I'm going to show the kids the difference between an analemmatic and an equatorial, and the vertical and the horizontal sundial. We'll make one of them. We're going to do 4-bar mechanisms and look at these really neat shapes you can make, with the 4-bar mechanism. This is an icosahedron right here. It's one of the 5 platonic solids, and it's really based on the golden ratio. And then here's a design project done by some students. It's a quick model of a pizza press. You put dough in there and you have a second-class lever, and then you can press the dough into a flat pizza crust. All right, that's all Dr. Krishna, I hope I didn't go too long.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, this is very, very fascinating. I wish I could take your course. The last slide that you showed, that sounds very, very interesting.
Well, you know what? You
Yeah.
know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make videos for it.
Oh, fantastic. That'll be great because I think people all over the world would love that. I love that. And
Well, you know what? I'm going to make videos, and actually, I really hope to expand it. But anyway, it's 10 minutes to 8. Well, 10 minutes
we'll have
before
a
the
few
hour.
questions. Yeah. So we'll take
Does
a
it-
few comments and questions, and after this wonderful presentation, let's see where we are. Let's see. Did you use lockdown browser for quizzes and/or final exam? Do you know what that is? Lockdown browser?
No, what is it?
I don't know. Maybe the person who asked the question might explain it to us. That's Ramesh from India. Okay, let's go to the next question.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either. So we'll all
Maybe
learn. So
somebody
that's what
could
such is it.
send me an
All
email.
person all like us learning new tricks.
Yeah,
The next
I don't
comment
know.
is multiple correct answer type questions can be awarded partial marks. But it can be considered as a set of true false questions combined to form a question. So I guess Noop is suggesting some way that you can give partial credit, which is a good thing. Thank you. So then which method did you like more, offline or online? I guess you have already given that answer, right?
Yes.
It's
I like in person, but I'm going to augment it with digital content.
So here's a professor from mathematics for engineering students. For assessment, that's Raji John. For assessment, students upload soft copy of their answers in Google Classroom, email, etc. What criteria should I keep to assess the paper as students do cheating, right? Writing the paper.
What's the question, Krishna? I didn't hear that.
The question is that he has his students upload soft copies of their answers. I mean, they're on a sheet of paper, they write the answers.
Right.
They submit it on Google
Right,
Classroom or by email. So how do I avoid cheating while they're writing this paper?
Yeah, that doesn't prevent cheating because they can all agree and they all write the same approach.
So that's going to be tough to avoid cheating in that particular mode. This is from MD Matthew. Richard, great learning indeed. Next semester, if you have to choose between in-class teaching and online teaching, what will you choose? And I guess maybe you have answered that to some extent. Again, a question about how do you take care of collaboration or interacting among students? I think that's something difficult to do that. Matthew is from St. Kitts University. Okay, what are the cost-effective best methods and devices used to teach remotely? So I mean, you found the document camera expensive. Would you suggest an alternative to that?
No, actually, here's what you buy $100. No, the document camera is inexpensive. You buy the $100. It's called the IPEVO, IPEVO on Amazon. IPEVO, it's small and it is the best document camera. It's portable, it's collapsible. IPEVO, $100. It's USB connector. The software works great. By the way, the software on the Epson doesn't even work. So just buy the $100 IPEVO document camera.
And that's what makes your videos, right? You put down your slides and you write on it. And
absolutely.
It makes you your video, and then you can use Camtasia to edit the video as you did.
Right.
Okay, Professor Markin, this is from Ramesh. How did sudden adaptation to online mode of instruction affect your collection of data for ABET accreditation? How do you deal with that?
Oh, you know what though? We suspended all of our ABET accreditation. We decided that we were not going to collect any data for ABET. However, though, here's what we did, and our department did something really good. We had each faculty member write a 1 or 2 page summary of their experiences, and it was then all collated. So now our department has on a spreadsheet, the things that worked and didn't work. So I recommend every department do that. Is you ask every faculty member, actually give them a questionnaire with specific questions, and then you assemble that into a spreadsheet. And that's what we're going to tell ABET. But as far as the other accreditations, I don't know, we suspended that.
Okay, Hopefully we'll find something in the coming year. And the blended, Manoj Kumar says a blended model with in-person and online instruction will be the norm for the future, and he agrees with you on that. A small group with social distancing guidelines can sit in class. A large number far away off campus can stay and learn from home. This model should be adapted in universities. Will the universities agree? That's the question he raises.
Well, you know what's interesting now is this, is universities have been telling us for the last 10 to 15 years, go online, create online courses because it saves money. Now they're saying, no, now we want to make it in person. Because in the United States, the universities, a substantial part of the budget, well, a large part of the budget is from room and board, dormitories. And when students aren't on campus, they lose their room and board, the dormitory money.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're saying, no, we have to get them back on campus.
Okay, comment from Narayan Sami Sambandhan says, do you recommend that curriculum should be revised in order to adapt to the new model?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be revised. How, I don't know. But you know, this is going to, I talk about with my friends, the vestigial effects of the COVID virus. It's going to affect everything that we do, more than education. It's going to be restaurants. It's going to be movie theaters are going to be shutting down. Drive-in theaters are going to see a resurgence. I mean, it's going to affect everything that we do. And I call, you know, those are the vestigial effects of the COVID after the virus has ended.
Mm-hmm. Ramesh says, Subramaniam says about the slides. Yes, we will be sending you a video recording. If you request it, just send an email.
Right, you send me an email, and I'll share all of my statistics videos with you.
Okay,
for my Google Docs. And you can see all my sketching videos just go to YouTube if you want.
And even these slides can be sent to you. Just email Richard Macklin, as you see on the slide in front of
Right.
you.
Just email me, and then come and visit me, and I'll take you out to lunch.
Okay, there you go. Great offer. Okay, is D2L now? I'm not too familiar with that either. And is that like Blackboard or something like that, or Canvas?
D2L is like I don't know. It's one of the oldest. It's called Distance to Learning. It's one of the oldest online programs for managing courses.
Yeah, so it's like Blackboard. Nowadays, most people have Blackboard or Canvas.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Same thing.
Yeah. Is it open source?
I don't know.
Does your university pay for it? Does your university probably pays for it, right?
The university buys a license.
Okay.
And it shares it with us.
It's probably not open source. Okay. Otherwise, everybody in India would have been using it.
Yeah, it's not open source. No, I'm sure it's not.
Yes. So again, you already, Sunil asked about the future scenario of education. I think you've already shared that to some extent. There's Juan Nicolaitis asks, have you used Zoom for interaction with students?
Oh yeah. That actually, for all of my teleconferencing, I've used 4 different platforms. I've used Zoom, Microsoft Teams, GoToWebinar. I have used WebEx and Blackboard. I've used 5 already, and they're similar. But I'll tell you what, the worst one is. No, let's see. No, they're all pretty much the same. Yeah. GoToWebinar, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. There are 5 of them. There are at least 5.
Yep. Okay. Then again, a question from Viranjanelu about exams and how about open book exams?
Oh yeah, all my exams are open book, open notes. Of course. Okay. I mean, how do you prevent it? Now, let me tell you though, is this: there's a new software package coming out in which the students who take these online exams are required to put a camera in the room where they're taking it. And the camera records the student taking the exam, sitting in front of their computer. So But however, though, those recordings of the student are not available until 24 hours later. So for instance, if you suspect the student was cheating, you can then watch that video 24 hours later and see if he was like on the cell phone talking to his friends or something. But frankly, I don't want to even get into that. If they cheat, you know what? That's their choice.
All right, so we have a few more questions, but we don't have time to read them out. So I'm going to give it back to Hans. Hans, come in.
Thank you very much. Richard, this has been one of the most creative, inspiring presentations I've had the pleasure to learn from and to listen to. And I just wanted to share with our friends globally here, and we have wonderful numbers of friends and colleagues from many, many countries joining us. I just wanted all of us to know is that Richard was a key person that made my stay leading IFEES GDC out of the School of Engineering at Marquette University for 5 years. He's an inspiring professor. You can see this through his presentation, and the community made a very special, beautiful home for our two global organizations. Just a couple of comments, Richard. You know, you said an old professor can learn new tricks. My question is, and obviously have time to reflect on it. You said, you know, as a friend, you are continuing for 2 years. I would encourage you to continue for the next 20 years because you're inspiring, you're thinking out of the box in ways unique and transparent. It's quite inspirational, by the way. Thanks, Krishna, also for mentioning, yes, I would like many people outside of the United States also, you know, to listen to your presentation, and we'll share that. Let's work together. And please, I look forward to take the train from Chicago, come back to Milwaukee, and have lunch with you, hopefully very, very soon. Thank you, my dear friend. Un abrazo fuerte. Thank you.
Abrazos.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. And I think your STEAM education project sounds like a winner. So we'll follow up on that.
You know what I'll do is I'd like to do a presentation to your groups about STEAM after I do the first semester at a public school here, okay?
That will be fantastic, fantastic. Okay, great. And thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Stay happy, stay safe, stay healthy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Buddy. Yeah.